Welcome to the Lifting Lounge podcast. Join your hosts Josh Parkin and Jack Buffery as they give you the knowledge and the tools to take your physical and mental performance to the next level.
Oh, nice. Open it up with some wind. Hi, listeners.
Hi.
You are now witness to Josh's flatulence.
Yep.
Before we get into the episode, ladies and gentlemen, I will just give you a quick rundown of what we're doing. So today's fit tip is go 5 Ys deep. Ooh. Then in Geek Corner, we're going to go on to the Spider-Verse. We're going to talk a little bit about some lore of a game that is coming out. I think it's next week or the week after, and what your favorite lore is as well. In Fit Talk, I'm going to ask you, Josh, the very important questions, and that is, if you had 10 seconds or less to give someone the keys to health, strength, and fitness, what would you say? In Study Time, we're going to cover a topic that we've spoken about before, but I don't know if it's on Study Time. And it's actually an article, so it's a bit of a misnomer saying study time, but it'll be fine. And finally, when we get onto the hot topic, we are going to be going on to 5 steps to get you stronger without actually adding weight to the bar. Guys, if you want us to talk about anything in particular, the best place to do it is on our Lifting Lounge Facebook group. So come join in the conversation there and you can ask us some stuff and we'll probably chat about that stuff on this podcast. And we'll give you a shout out as well. But if you're
buddy,
if you're stupid, we'll call you out instead of shouting you out. So yeah.
Yep. Talking about shout outs, I was training a client today who had a dream about you, Jack.
Oh dear. This doesn't sound good.
So they reckon, so they're a regular listener of our show, and
Okay.
he reckons that he was listening to the podcast.
Okay.
And in a day, yeah, it's a he. He was listening to the podcast in a day, and then he dreamt about you overnight. And his dream, so random. His dream. So you and him were at the gym, and he saw you, but your arms are so long that your knuckles are touching the floor.
What the fuck?
And he said he would see them, but he didn't want to mention anything because he didn't know if it was a thing, and you would get worried about it. And then in the end, he thought, no, I have to mention it. And apparently, he mentioned it, and then you would like, oh, why'd you have to mention it? It's a thing.
What the fuck? Hold on, I'm just looking at the rotor to see who you had this morning because I can't think who that was.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, who was it? I've got some ideas.
It was the master of sunglasses himself.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting. Oh, that's cool because I've only met him like literally once, I think, maybe twice. I've met him. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
amazing.
So apparently, cool. You have arms so long they touch the floor. Yeah,
it's a euphemism for something else. Right. Yeah. How are you anyway, mate? How's your day been today, apart from chatting about people dreaming about me?
Yeah, man, good. Got up, went to work, trained, and then I've just pressure cooked 6 meals, and then now I'm here.
So is that the first time you've used a pressure cooker?
No, I used it for the first time the other day, and I made a beef ragu, but it was like steak pieces instead of mince.
How good?
I tell you what, I had it just now, and it's really nice,
man.
And I've just did my beans and mince combo in the pressure cooker for once, and instead of like 8 hours in a slow cooker, it took 15 minutes in the pressure cooker. So
it's mad.
Not bad.
Is that your air fryer? Because that doubles up as a pressure cooker as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, does it all, mate.
How long does it take to pressurize? That is the only thing that mine takes a long time to do. The only thing about mine, it takes a long time to pressurize, but once it is, it doesn't take long to cook.
It takes about, I reckon, about 10, 15 minutes maybe to pressurize. But it's still
well worth
quicker than 8 hours of slow cooking.
Mate, honestly, you can get a really tough bit of pork or beef, and this is actually quite handy for the listeners because if you struggle for food, and especially the expensive food, you can get tough cuts of meat, whack them in a pressure cooker, and like less than 45 minutes later you can have like pulled pork or pulled beef or something like that, and it is just melt in the mouth good, and you can just mix it with like chili sauce and stuff. So barbecue sauce and stuff for the pool. Yes, you make me hungry just talking about it.
Sounds awesome. So good.
It is good.
Well, Jack,
Mm.
how are you? You haven't told me how you are. Are you okay? Are you living a dream?
I'm always living a dream. I am very happy that the weather lasted this morning. So, myself and Josh, we live in Cornwall near a town called Falmouth. And in Falmouth this weekend, there has been something called, well, this week, sorry, there's been something called tall ships, which is like a massive bunch of old school sail ships, like you think pirate ships, those sorts of things have been in the bay. I haven't been anywhere near it because the traffic's been grim, so I've stayed well out of the way. However, they were supposed to sail out today, and that's been cancelled because of the weather. What I am happy to say is that weather has only just started showing its face, and I didn't get absolutely soaking wet this morning because it's been a nice day so far. So yeah, it has been good. I had 3 clients at a workshop, and it has just been nice. Everyone's had good sessions. It's been a strong day, strong start to the day.
Good. Happy days. Well,
Yeah.
Jack, I like my tips deep. I like them deep.
How deep?
Even if it's just a tip. I want a deep tip, but sometimes, there's levels to how deep you can go. There's levels.
There
And
are.
I've never reached the 5th level of a deep tip.
Well,
So Jack, I wonder if you can supply me with 5 levels of deep tip. Oh my
Josh,
God.
we're going 5 deep in the tips today. 5 deep. Do you know what? I never write these. I'm sure you don't either, although I think a couple of times we may have. I don't write these ever consciously thinking of the jokes we're going to make at the beginning of it. They just end up being able to joke anyway. But this one is particular. Maybe subconsciously, I was thinking he's going to make a joke about this. I'll make it easy. But let's fuck that off and get something ready that we can clip for the social medias. Ladies and gentlemen, my tip for you today is go 5 Ys deep. Y is in WHY, not wise. The reason behind this is I think, yeah, and this comes from the RDA system as well, the drivers part of the RDA. And that is when people are trying to identify what their why is when they come up with a goal, they usually only go like kind of 1 deep, and it doesn't actually resonate enough. For instance, why do you want to go to the gym? I want to go because I want to look buff. Okay, that's cool. That will keep you entertained for a while, but you should take that further. So try to ask yourself why 5 times. So I haven't actually prepared anything for this, but let's use that example. Why do I want to go to the gym? So the first why would be to look buff. And why do you want to look buff? Maybe to help bring up my confidence level. And why do you want to bring up your confidence level? Because it helps me be a better person, show up better in life, and do everything else better. Why do you want to show up better in life? Because if I show up better in life, everyone's going to be happier. Why do you want everyone to be happier? Because then I feel like I've contributed to the world. Like, there you go. So all of a sudden, going to the gym isn't superficial. It's actually something deep and meaningful. Does that make sense? So, like, asking yourself 5 times why is probably a good place to start. And you can go deeper, and sometimes you might not find all 5. It depends how big the goal is. But the tip for today is go 5 whys deep.
Love it. I love it. Get deep, people. Figure it out. Understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. That's the whole thing. Understanding why you're doing it.
I'm going to give a shout out to Matt Williamson, or Matt Williams of Modern Wisdom podcast, because I heard him mention it. Although I know he didn't come up with it. Chris Williamson, yeah, Chris Williams or Williamson. That's it. I can't remember. He actually quoted someone else of coming up with that, but I can't remember who that person was. So I'm not going to take credit for that one. That is something I heard on the Modern Wisdom podcast. But I thought, actually, yeah, 5, it gives you a nice measurable number of how deep to go. So I like it.
Yeah, that is great. It is good. And I don't think people often don't think that deep. Well, I had a really good conversation actually with a client who I've got tonight about this. and it goes the other way as well. And if you can't, and I think a good turnaround for this tip is if you can't think of what 5 whys deep, then it's not really a reason. And it
Mhm.
works in terms of negative context. So this client was like, "Oh, I don't really like this exercise," and I literally, I didn't even realize what I did. I just asked a simple question, just said, "Why don't you like it?" And
Mhm.
she stopped and paused and went, "Do you know what? That's a really good question." I was like, I don't even know." And I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, we're getting somewhere here." Right. So it's if you're saying negative things, well, why? Why is that
Mhm.
the case? Are you just saying it because you're just saying it and you think you don't like something? So it works both ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. That's a good point. And the thing is, I think if you can't go, if you have got a goal that you want to hit and you can't go 5 whys deep on it, yeah, it's probably telling you, well, maybe it's not worth it. If you unless that
Yeah.
first why
Yeah.
is really fucking powerful, anyway. But yeah, go 5 whys deep, people. Okay, let's move on to our geek corner. So, first thing I wanted to say was Spider Verse, as in the animated ones.
Hmm.
What was the first one called? I can't remember.
Into the Spider Verse.
Oh, what was the
Is
second one
it?
called? Yeah,
Is
into
it
I can't
just,
remember what they're bloody called now.
is it Across the Spider Verse?
That's it. Yeah, and then you've got a third one coming out. Probably, I think
Yeah.
it's scheduled for February, but they're not. So basically, they said, which I love. They said, "I was going to take as much time as it takes to make," and I like that. So it means they're not trying to
Yeah.
rush it out. But yeah, I've finally watched them. Me and Kimberly sat down and watched both of them actually over the duration of last weekend.
Mm.
And I said to you, so you when you first watched this, there might be a few spoilers in here. So just skip ahead in the show notes to Fit Talk, just in case. But yeah, you said that it's better than the first one, and you,
Mm.
I said to you, I watched the first 45 minutes. I think it's like an hour and a half. I watched maybe the first hour of it one night, and then I went to bed. And at that point, when I had switched it off, I was like, I don't know if I agree with Josh on this one. Actually, I think I preferred the first one. And
Mm.
then I came back the next night, watched the last 45 minutes of it or whatever, and I was like, holy shit, this is good. I was like getting proper goose pimples at some of the points. So yeah, it just goes to show like the second half of the movie really does bring it home.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, it doesn't just leave it open for a third one. It is a necessity that there has to be a third one. So
Mm.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was proper cool. You probably did as well. I guessed who the Prowler was as soon as he came into the last scene. I was like, well, that's him, isn't it?
Mm.
But I love the way
Yeah,
they've
yeah,
done it.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's incredible the way that they've made it look.
It's like it's the fucking right way to do a trilogy. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Some trilogies just like they just do them for the sake of them and then try and make
mhm.
a new story. But this trilogy really is just one long movie. It's
Yeah.
just one long story. They've linked into each other really well, especially well, we don't know, we haven't seen the third one yet, but it's
Mm,
led into the third one. Like it's done middle movie really well. It's
yeah.
definitely made a good middle movie.
It reminds me in a way of so the other trilogy that I think of done something very, very similar. There's two more that come to mind actually. The OG is Back to the Future, where the first one could have stood
Mm.
alone, but then the second one leaves it where it wouldn't make sense if it wasn't for the third one. And then
Mhm.
the same thing also happened with Matrix. First Matrix film was definitely a standalone. It could have been, but the sequel made sense.
Mm.
But the sequel wouldn't have made sense without the third one as well. They're like three trilogies I can think of in my
Mm.
head that kind of really do tie that narrative together. And I've got a lot of time
Mm.
for people taking the time to do that, like producers and filmmakers.
Yeah. The only other one, because otherwise people will kick off, I think, is Lord of the Rings.
But the reason and this is where I'm geeking out a bit, the reason I have exception to that is because Lord of the Rings itself was not intended as three books. It was intended as one, just split into three parts. So,
Ah.
yeah, with the film, I'm
Mm.
not sure. Like, that's harder for me to quantify that one. I
Or
do know.
or the original Star Wars.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. That's a good point.
Mm.
Hmm. True. Yeah, there's plenty of options
Couldn't
out
have
there. In
done it
that
without
case.
the. You couldn't have done it without the third. Yeah, maybe we should shut our mouths.
Yeah, yeah. I really want to. We were watching the trailer for Ahsoka the other day, and I'm looking forward to watching that. Still
Mm,
haven't watched season 3 of The Mandalorian yet. I really want to just go through the Star Wars in timeline order. I've said this on the podcast before, but we haven't done it yet. So yeah, I think me and Kimberly are going to want to do it. But I
mm,
also really want to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy again. Excuse me.
mm. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, definitely.
I'm going to move on quick because there's a couple of topics on Geek Corner today. But the next one is Starfield, which is the next Bethesda game coming out. So Bethesda make games like Skyrim and the Fallout games and stuff like that. Now, the only Bethesda game I've ever played is Skyrim. I put like 100 and something hours into it, and that's like child's play compared
Mm.
to the hours that most people put into that game. But one of my problems with that game, which is why I had to stop playing it, is because I would stop and read every single fucking book I came across. Because the lore in that game is so dense, I was just like, this is amazing. I've heard Morrowind is even more insane, but I'm not even ever gonna touch that. But they've got a new game coming out called Starfield, which is basically a big intergalactic kind of I don't know what kind of game, but sci-fi game for lack of a better word. And I read a headline that said they have developed 300 years worth of intricate backstory for it. So I was like, okay, this is
Oh my
cool.
god.
So yeah, is it? So I know you haven't got a next gen console, I don't think yet, but when you do get one, is it something that is going to be on your radar, that game, or is it not tickle your
So there's a
fancy?
few games that are no, there's a few games that are on my radar. See, I'm a sucker for big games like that. I'm a sucker
Mm,
for RPGs, world building games, all that sort of thing. So I probably is on my radar. There's
okay.
that and Baldur's Gate 3 as well, which has come out, which apparently is just phenomenal.
My client I
So
was
there's
training
those
this
two
morning,
games, I think.
he was saying that Baldur's Gate is worth all the hype. He was saying it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
So yeah, apparently that
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
very, very good. So this brings me to it because actually Baldur's Gate, that's probably a good one to come off this one of as well. But what is your favorite lore from any media? I'm going to actually change this. I'm not going to say any media because you can say whatever
Mm.
media you want, but from, let's say, from different types of media. So from games, from books, or from movies, like you can pick one from each, or you can pick just one overall. But what is your favorite lore from media? While you're thinking,
That's yeah.
I'm,
Go
I'm
on.
gonna I'm gonna go into mine, and this is a series that I've brought up a lot, but it might be quite surprising if you don't know anything about it. And there's two actually. One is the Resident Evil lore because that is insane. It goes back like 10,000 years or 100,000 years or something like that. I didn't realize that.
Mm,
I do need to look more into that to discover all of it. But the other one is the lore of Metal Gear Solid because I love
mm,
I love myself a conspiracy theory and stuff like that, and that goes all into like the First World War, Second World War, the Cold War, all the way up to modern day, and it locks itself into different real historical moments and it ties it all into their universe of that game, including like slightly weird paranormally type stuff as well as like paramilitary stuff. And I love all of those things combined together. I think they make such a good combination. So in terms of gaming, it would probably be Metal Gear Solid at the moment is my favorite kind of lore building thing because I've said on the podcast before, I love it when fiction gets tied in with stuff that's happened in the real world.
yeah, I mean, I like as you know, I haven't played those games, so
Mm.
I wouldn't know, but I've heard it is phenomenal. For me, it's tough. I've played quite a lot of fantasy games. I really like the lore from the Dynasty Warriors games of the old like Chinese, well, Dynasty Wars. With like Cao Cao and the three clans like Wei Wu, Lei. That's cool, but I think really I'm like Skyrim was great. I loved all of that and all the different like factions and pieces of it. But ultimately, in terms of lore, I played an MMO back in the day called Guild Wars. and I don't know if you've heard of Guild Wars before.
Yeah, my
But
couple of
Guild
guys I used to
Wars,
work with were obsessed with it back in the day when I was like a landscaper.
yeah. Yeah, I played Guild Wars, and Guild Wars is awesome. And then Guild Wars 2 came out, and then it just expanded on it. And I've got books from the Guild Wars universe. I loved it. If I had time now and I had a good enough computer, I'd be playing an MMO like Guild Wars. But yeah, I thought that was so good.
That is cool. I've never played. I played a little bit. So Guild Wars was like World of Warcraft, wasn't it? But I would say it verged slightly more on a less cartoonish side of things than what World of Warcraft done.
Yeah.
I played World of Warcraft for like 3 or 4 hours, maybe probably a little bit more than that. But I was luckily at the time, I was like, if I get into this, my life is over because you can't complete games like that. They just go on and on and on. So I stopped playing. And it probably helped that it cost money as well, because I was like, yeah, no, this is costing me money. It's going to eat up all my life. So I'm just going to stop playing. Whereas Guild Wars was free, wasn't it? So I remember that.
Yeah.
I could see myself falling and like getting seriously into something like that. Is it still going now, Guild Wars?
Yeah, Guild Wars is still going, and I mean, like just not like most MMOs, that it's still going. So Guild Wars 2 is still going, World of Warcraft still going. Another MMO which is on consoles, Destiny 2, that's still going. You know, they're all still going, man. Yeah.
That is cool. I don't know if you've heard this, but one of my mates sent me a message the other day. I don't know when it's coming out, but there is a new Lord of the Rings MMO coming out, and there was
Yeah.
one before that was supposed to be quite good. But no, Lord of the Rings RPG. Yeah, it is an MMO as well. It's in development for PC and consoles from Amazon Games. Now, I don't
Oh
know
wow. Yeah.
if I'm going to be able to resist actually walking through Middle Earth. Like, if you can go traverse Middle Earth properly, I mean, that's you, because you could in the other game, but I don't even know if the servers are still up for the other game. But that is going to be
Yeah.
absolutely insane with modern day graphics, being able to actually go through all of that. That's going to be mad.
I imagine it will be the biggest selling game of all time. It's got to be, sure. It'll be up there anyway. It'll be one of the best performances, like opening performances at least.
You would have, you would have thought so. Although I'm not sure how popular the last one was, if I'm completely honest. The problem with that is, I mean, go back 20 years when the movies came out, then that was great. But nowadays, all the modern audience got to go on, like the younger generation, is the Amazon series, and I don't really think it does it much justice. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it will be, especially for probably people in our audience who are old enough to remember like the films and have seen the new series and the books and stuff like that. So yeah, we will see. I'm very much looking forward to what they do with it, and again, I might just have to have a little sneak look. But yeah, I mean, Lord of the Rings obviously deserves a mention in any conversation like this, to be fair, because it is,
100%.
he is like, that is the granddaddy of lawmaking. But yeah, in terms of anything else, is there any other law that like you just hold absolutely on a high pedestal?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I spoke to you before about this before, Jack, but I'm a massive fan of Brandon Sanderson, who's an author, and he has I mean, he's a prolific writer. He's wrote loads, but he has basically built kind of a universe called the Cosmere, which he has series within that universe. So he's got like a X amount of series within that universe that are all set on their own planets, but they all kind of like somehow subtly, like there's some character that may subtly link between them or something like that.
That's cool.
And the lore within those books, it's like high fantasy. It's like really, 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 really good. He builds the lore so well over like centuries, and it's awesome.
I love that. Like, for me, that's even more exciting when it's just a a small reference rather than a in-your-face thing. I like it when those things are, because it just shows that they pay so much thought to it. They can introduce characters from other sides of things into stuff like that. I love seeing characters pop up in other things. I think it's great. That's really cool. I haven't read any fantasy books in ages. I think I've probably mentioned this before. The last load of fantasy books I read were the Dark Tower series, and that did become a slog towards the end. But I just needed to get it finished. It was a good series. I definitely recommend it. I wasn't very keen on the ending at all. But yeah, there's two Stephen King books though that are set. They're kind of tied to the Dark Tower series in a way. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone by saying how, but there's a book called The Talisman and The Dark House, and both are co-authored with a guy called Peter Straub or Straub. They're phenomenal, and yeah, the lore in them is quite cool. Go on.
Apparently, a lot of his books link together because I think it is linked to the Dark Tower in a way as well.
Yeah, so the film doesn't really go into it. So if you haven't seen the film and plan on watching it, if you haven't read the book but plan on reading it, just shut your ears for a few seconds. But it's literally came out the year I was born, so this is a 38-year-old spoiler. He is basically a god. So Pennywise, his origin is like a space-time god, and he ties into other universes. And yeah, there's a lot of tie-ins across his fictional. So a lot of Stephen King's books take place in a fictional town called Derry in Maine, northeast America, I think it is, but it's just above New York State. But yeah, they all tie together. Some of them have like real significant ties, other are like kind of subtle, but they're all good. I love that shit.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to Fit Talk. And I have a question for you, because I was thinking about this the other day, and I timed myself to see how long it actually took to say this before I asked this question. So if you had 10 seconds or less to give someone the keys to health, strength, and fitness, what would you say?
You going to time me, or is there a...
I would time you, but there's a slight delay on our time thing, so you might have to time yourself on this one.
Okay, all right. I'll get my timer ready.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is quite easy, I think.
It wants to be as specific as possible, so you're literally giving people the tools, not the ideas, but the tools to do it. Is the route I'm going down with this?
Okay. Right. Let's do it. Got my timer here for anybody who's watching. 3, 2, 1. Oh, wait a minute. 3, 2, 1. Train 4 days a week. Make sure you train each muscle group twice a week. Eat lots of vegetables. Eat good 80% of the time. Sleep 8 hours a night. Drink 3 liters of water. There you go.
Nice. Okay, cool. Wicked. Okay, I like that a lot. So I am going to... I'll do the same. I like that. So it is very similar to what you just said.
I missed that one thing. I think, and that was eat high protein. I think that was my one thing I missed.
Okay. I don't know if this is going to be mirrored or not. Let's see. Okay, so I have got train 5x5 3 times a week, eat paleo, drink 3 liters of water, sleep, eat 8 hours. Oh shit, is there another one? What have I missed? Oh, my own question. I think that might have been it. What did I say? Train 5x5 3 times a week, eat paleo, drink 3 liters of water, sleep 8 hours. I think that might be it. I think if people just looked at those things, then like those things to start off with, that would see them through their first year of training with fucking phenomenal results. Yeah, we're very similar.
Simple, isn't it?
To be fair, yeah, it really is. And that's it. Like, obviously there's so many nuances to that, but I was like, well, if I really had to whittle it down to something that I knew was going to get results, I think those are the things I would say. It says It's so. Let me give you a bit of a background for this question. I just think it's so easy for people to go into the weeds and overcomplicate stuff. So easy to think
Yeah.
like try and come up with a perfect plan. So I was just like, right, well, what could I actually say to someone in a short sentence that would actually give them everything they need for their first year of training? And that is pretty much it.
I think it's so funny. We always think about things at the same time, but
Mm.
I've been thinking about this lately as well, in how trainers and even ourselves can like get way too complicated with things and build, even when it comes to specific plans and training, and get people doing weird, crazy shit. Um, and I was thinking about it, and do you know what made me think about it? It was watching Dr. Mike Israetel reacting to Brie Larson's workouts
Hmm.
and how ridiculous that whole fucking workout was. And I was like, well, actually, it is actually really simple. It is really simple initially, is if you just do all the basic movements and master them and build strength in them and eat well and get lots of sleep in, that you're sorted. That's all
Hmm.
you really need to do. And then if you want to do anything that's specific to some kind of movement, then fine. But really, if you could just hinge, squat, push, pull, lunge, carry, the standard, then fucking what else do you need to do?
Yeah, the thing is, like the things we've both just mentioned are going to get you 80 to 90% of the results. Like all the superfluous stuff is going to only
Mm,
get 10 to 20% results. So, yeah, if you're focusing on the shit that gives you the 10 to 20 and not the 80, then you're doing things wrong. So, definitely, the idea behind the Fit Talk today is make it simple. Like, make it as simple on yourself as
mm,
possible. Don't overcomplicate stuff. Yeah, it can be as easy as that. So I can't remember what your answer was, Josh, but I said train 5 by 5 3 times a week, eat paleo, sleep 8 hours, drink 3 liters of water. Like that's just four things to focus
yep,
on, and you're done. Like
simple.
that's it. Yeah, it is. It is simple.
Yeah, it is as simple as that. That's it.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. Let's move on to study time next, and this comes from not as I can't find a direct study, but this comes from an article from last year on a website called the Health Site. And I haven't looked at the validity of the site. I'm not too overly sold on it because it doesn't give me many references or anything like that. But this is the headline of this is hitting the snooze button repeatedly can cause sleep inertia, says experts. And I'm going to almost read the full article here because it's not very long. So constantly hitting the snooze button disrupts your REM cycle and will leave you feeling tired and groggy in the morning. The snooze button on our phones serves almost like a sweet intervention. We think that it lets us go back to our slumber for a little longer. We keep hitting the button thinking that just a few extra minutes of sleep would do good, but unfortunately, experts say that it has the exact opposite impact on our sleep and on our health. Not only does it not let us complete the full sleep cycle, but also can increase anxiety and stress because we are constantly jolted awake before our cycle is complete. And deep down, we also know that the alarm will ring again. Do not develop this habit as it is highly injurious to health. I did not know that was a word. It hinders you from getting the
Mm,
full sleep that you need, and that will impact your entire day, productivity, and energy, which is something we talk about all the time, Josh. Ironically, in the
mm,
long run, we lose the very sleep we're trying to safeguard through the act of snoozing. Now, about the study, according to the new study published in Oxford Academics Journal Sleep, majority of the people, which consisted about 57% of them, said that they also have the habit of constantly hitting the snooze button. They stated that this has become a habit for them. This could mean that more than half of the population unknowingly engage in a behavior that can only harm them. When we hit the snooze button, we are neither getting the rest and proper sleep that we need, nor having a good, fresh morning hour or sometimes even a good day. We cannot win anything through this habit, experts say. As the alarm rings and we hit the snooze button, our body and brain re-enters the REM cycle. The latter part of our sleep during this period is compromised because of REM, rapid eye movement cycle of sleep. That is a restorative sleep state. So if we continue to do this, we continue to disrupt the REM sleep routine, says experts. When we disrupt the REM cycle, as we keep pressing the snooze on our phone or alarm clock, the alarm inevitably rings again and we wake up again. This process wakes us up in the middle of the cycle, and the feelings of fogginess and drowsiness persist for longer than it should. We might even feel disoriented for a few hours. Now we know why we always feel groggy and cranky in the mornings when we are supposed to feel fresh. This habit can also lead to serious sleep-related disorders and problems. People could develop the problem of sleep inertia, which is the state of impaired cognitive and sensory motor performance that people tend to experience right after waking up. This problem lasts for about 15 minutes to an hour right after we wake up before completing our REM cycle. This can severely impact decision-making, productivity, energy, and the ability to function, and also our safety. Now, one of the reasons that I'm not so sure about the validity of this site is that I actually had to verbally rectify some of the spelling mistakes that they've made in this article, but the message is still clear. And I think the message is a good one. And I know, Josh, it was something that you went through with having the no snooze club. I've actually been
Yeah.
I've been guilty of doing this week because I've been quite tired this week, just because I've had some other stuff on my plate as more than usual, and it's made me, it's definitely made me feel worse. Like, instead of getting up at 5:45 when my alarm goes off, I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to spend like another 15 minutes, maybe even 25 minutes in bed, and getting up at like 6 or 10 past 6, and it feels fucking great at the time just to lie my head back down on the pillow, close my
Yeah.
eyes, and go back to sleep. But I know it's not doing me any favors in the long run. So yeah, it's something we talk about quite a lot. But the idea of snoozing, the other psychological thing that I've heard about it as well is you're failing your first goal for the day. You've set yourself a goal of waking up, and literally you're failing that as your very first act of the day. You're saying, nope, my goal isn't that important. I'm just going to turn it off and I'll deal with it later on. So mentally and
Yeah.
psychologically, from that fact, you're already in your head making yourself a loser, in not so harsher terms.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's great
Mm.
to have some kind of studies back it up, which is nice because we've been saying it for a while. That
Hmm.
and that more that, like, in on the terms of like setting your day up wrong,
Yeah.
and saying that it doesn't benefit you. You're not getting high quality sleep after you snooze. So, but the problem is that people make it a habit. Yeah, that's the
Hmm.
problem. Is people make it a habit, and people really struggle to break habits that they create, and that's the that's the big thing. Is then how can you get people to break that initial habit? Is it because some people do? So, for instance, like Rachel, she snoozes all the time. She'll snooze like 3 or 4 times before she gets up, but she definitely gets enough hours sleep in.
Mm.
So it's not that she's tired, it's not that she needs to snooze because she gets enough hours sleep in, but it's more of a case of it's a habit now, and the it's almost like a comfort blanket, or the need to do it. If there's a need in, there's not really a need, but there's a want to do it because it's comfortable and that's what you're used to.
Mm. Yeah, and it's almost like, so some people will kind of use it as, I am the master of my own destiny. I will not be dictated to by an alarm clock, and
Mm,
that's fair. I like that.
mm,
I must admit, at the weekends still, or sometimes I like setting my alarm ridiculously early because then I like it to go off knowing that I don't actually have to get up, which is quite nice. But that's probably doing more harm than good. That's my own stubbornness coming through.
mm.
But yeah, it is like you say, it's the habit that is the problem. I would rather, because the thing is, I find that when I hit my snooze, that next extra 10, 15, half hour of sleep is never nice. It's not like it's disjointed. It feels nice lying back down again, but it's not nice sleep. Like, and wake up feeling
Mhm.
groggy. Yeah, I don't
But
get much out of
also,
it.
On the other side of that, when you actually just get up and get out of bed and do shit, you're like, feel fine. I don't know what the problem is. Once you get over that first initial bit of just getting out of bed and then like just carrying on your normal day, it's actually okay. It's
I think it's
completely fine.
better. Yeah, I
It's
think
not.
it's wicked.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
feel way more energetic if you just get up the first time. I completely agree with what this article says about the fogginess. I find if I hit my
Mm.
snooze button, I'm foggier for definitely the start of the morning. You've probably seen actually. I've come to work a few times with my coffee cup, which I hardly ever do. I usually wait
Mm.
until I can get one from the calf, but this week I've been bringing them in the mornings with me.
Mm.
Still after over an hour after I've woken up, but it's like I can't wait to start drinking that thing. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, and that is part of it's got to become part of my daily routine again, where I'm just not hitting that snooze button.
Yeah, great. That's good. No snooze club.
Yeah. Okay. We are going to go on to the hot topic next. And the hot topic today is 5 steps to get stronger without having to add weight to the bar. Now, the
Yeah.
irony of this comment is you're going to be able to add a fucking bunch of weight to the bar after you've done it. So, what these are, this is something where you could add some, or probably not all, but you could add some of these to a particular phase of your training. You could add any of them to a normal phase of your training. Some of them are a bit more specific than others, and you will get results. So my goals for this topic is to get you better results in the gym. And the drivers for this is to help you fully understand the process and identify your weaknesses and overcome them. Now, the drivers from this come from several episodes we've had recently. One of them was the squat episode that I think you done a couple of episodes back, and the other one was the plateau episode that I done a few episodes back. Because I think identifying your weaknesses is a really good thing to be able to do in a gym to get stronger. So the actions that I'm going to take is laying out 5 steps to make you stronger, make you a stronger lifter without adding weight to the bar. And the first one is something we've talked about many times, and that is tempo. So tempo is simply adding a number to equate to a portion of lift. So usually it's 4 numbers, although I have seen it written as 3 quite often. The first number in this is always the bit where you are going with
eccentric.
gravity. Yeah, where you're going with gravity. So, for instance, if you've got let's take a bench press, for example. If you've got a 4 to a 1-1 tempo, then that is going to be you unrack the bar. It takes 4 seconds to get down to your chest. You hold it at the chest for 2 seconds, then you punch it up in the air, and then you start lowering pretty much straight away with like the briefest of pauses again for 4 seconds. So it's 4 seconds down, 2 at the bottom, 1 second up, 1 second hold at the top, and then 4 seconds down again. That is a 4 to 1-1 tempo. Tempo is a great way to get strong because you can use the weight you're on now, and you could give yourself, again, Josh, you talked about adding a 10-second tempo to the squat a couple of episodes back to really nail in exactly where the weaknesses are in your squat.
Yeah, tempo is great, man. And tempo is where quite a lot of the strength gains are made. It's also where most hypertrophy is made. So most hypertrophy is made in that eccentric portion of the lift, in a deep stretch position. So tempo is like super important. That's why the people that spend all their time just like speed repping everything is you're missing out on so much more of the reps. So adding in a slow tempo is such a great idea. And I like to do it. I mean, we've talked about this before in here. I like to do it to like bust people's egos. I like it's when people start letting egos take over a little bit too much in their training session, and they get a little bit carried away with weights. I'll throw a tempo in just to fuck with them completely, because then there's no tempo's got no time for ego.
It's really funny you say that because the initial title I gave to this hot topic was how to overcome your ego in the gym. So that is initially what I called this hot topic, because all of these maybe not all of them, but most of these will, you have to leave your ego at the door, because that is almost the point of it. It's almost to go as light as you can to make it feel as disgusting as possible. That's the point of it.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said as well, like tempo, especially for bodybuilding, like the standard bodybuilding tempo is 4 seconds down. Like that I would say is probably double the amount of what most people take to lower a weight. So if you're lifting a weight and you take 4 seconds to lower it down, I challenge you, in fact, if you're a regular gym goer and you don't use tempo already, next time you go to the gym, do exactly what you done last time, but add a 4-second eccentric tempo to it and see what happens. And you're gonna fucking hate me.
It'd be gross.
Yeah, it will be gross.
Yeah, it'd be gross.
The next one, this is a good thing. This is a good way to do. So this doesn't work with all lifts, but with things like squats and bench press, this is really good. And you've heard us talk about these before, but that start at the bottom. And again, we talked about this on your squat episode, Josh. But so the two instances of this where it's most obvious is going to be the bottom of a squat, where you can rack up the bar at the bottom of the rack, and you've got to start your squat from there. So you're driving up from the bottom position. Now, this completely eliminates momentum from the equation, and it is hard to drive back out of that. It's almost the same as adding tempo in, but giving yourself like a 5-second pause at the bottom and then having to drive out of it. But again, you can't even bounce back out of it because the bar is at such a good height. You can't bounce down and then start lifting up. You've got to start driving up straight away. And the same with the bench press as well. So you can do a pin press where you set up the spotter arms, where the bar is basically touching your chest, and then you've got to drive up, keeping it as smooth and controlled as possible. And I guarantee, if you've never done this before, the first time you do either of these, you're going to be wobbling all over the place.
Yeah, it's amazing how hard and just weird it is doing it from the bottom. So doing like a pin press and stuff like that is so strange. It's such a you don't realize how unstable you are in the bottom position until you start doing that, and then it really teaches you. What I find it teaches you as well, especially with like the pin press, is it teaches you where that like perfect spot is to press out of. So when you then you go back to pressing, you know exactly where's the best spot to like push out of, and what direction to go. What's the easiest direction in terms of pushing out of?
Yeah. One of the things I see all the time with the pin press is that people usually end up turning it into a guillotine press. Their elbows will flare all the way out, and it's teaching them not to do that. It's to find that right angle where they're locked into the bench and able to drive out of it, where the bar's in a better position, and that will make you so much stronger in the long run. It's ridiculous because you're not just relying on the shoulder strength; you're getting all the other muscles engaged as well. So, yeah, pin press for both squat and for bench press, they are two great ways to do it. The others, it doesn't really matter so much. But that being said, there is a way with every other lift where you can, most other lifts where you can kind of start at the bottom to make it work, and that is an isometric move. So this is actually a sixth point, but it kind of works with start at the bottom. So for example, if you're in a deadlift, it's a great way to learn how to get tension by actually having a couple of anchor points where the chain is on the end of the bar for a deadlift, but you can't move it. So it's locked into the floor, and you're trying to get that tension up. You're trying to lift. You're trying to just make your body as rigid as possible. And that is a great way to understand isometric tension. And you could do this things with like bicep curls and tricep work as well, is just pushing against it and immovable object, and that is going to give you isometric tension throughout all your muscles.
Yep, awesome. It's great. It's great. I love it.
The next point I've got on here is unilateral training, and this is the thing that just people's nightmares are made of, because unilateral training, it is humbling. You will have to drop the weight if you've never done it before massively. If you've only done bilateral training, you have to drop the weight anyway. That's just a natural thing to do. But training one limb at a time, especially. So even at the moment, I'm training 6 days a week, and the second half is all unilateral. So I'm doing alternating at top bench press, which is where I keep one dumbbell up and the other one is moving, and I alternate between them. I alternate at the top, and that feels like a completely different animal because you've got a weight in each hand. You can't rely on one side taking up the slack. Same with like the most notorious one is probably Bulgarian split squats, doing a rear foot elevated split squat with weight in your hand. That will highlight if one side is stronger than the other. And the top key to understand with this is always start with the weaker side so you can help it catch up with the stronger side.
Yeah, man, unilateral training is gross. Everybody hates it, but it's so good for you. Stuff like lunges and everything as well is great.
Yeah.
You don't have to do like crazy exercises. Basic stuff like lunges and split squats do so much for your legs. It's definitely something people need to be doing more of.
Yeah, I must admit I am enjoying unilateral quite a lot. I love unilateral upper body. I'm not going to lie. For me, that's really fun. But unilateral lower body is just fucking disgusting. The
Yeah.
next one, and this is a bit of a cheat because you are technically adding weight to the bar, but not in the terms of plates. You're adding resistance to the bar in different ways. And both of these are actually slightly different in terms of the stimulus they give, but they're both very effective. The first is adding bands. So if, for instance, you're doing a deadlift, you can add an anchor point to the floor. You attach the band to the anchor point and the bands to each end of the bar. And as you lift up, the band is giving you extra resistance. So this changes the strength curve massively because the further you get away from the floor, the heavier it gets. So it actually leans into the strength curve a little bit more. And it's the same with chains as well. So if you've got chains, say on a deadlift or a squat or even a bench press, they're both relative to any other lifts. The further you get away from the floor, the heavier either the chain or the band gets, the more resistance it offers.
Yeah, bands can actually go the other way, and you can hook them up top, and then it can be easier at the bottom but heavier at the top. So you switch up. What I like with deadlifts as well, and a good banded one for deadlifts, is actually have the band attached to something in front of you. So, like, say, a meter in front of you, or well, maybe a couple more meters in front of you, and attached to the bar, so it's almost pulling the bar away from you. And then when you deadlift, you have to pull the bar in, so which gets your upper back tight and makes you use a bit more of the right muscles. So I really like that for deadlifts, is having a band pull the bar away.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, bands are really effective. I've said this so many times. You're probably getting sick of me saying it, Josh, to be honest, but I fucking love bands. They are so effective for so many different reasons. I can really mess people up with bands, and it's such a great feeling. And if you've ever done tempo work with bands as well, then you're really talking, because that is a stimulus that not many other things can offer like that. So yeah, bands and chains are number 4. Number 5 is another one we've talked about, but this is going to be a very specific context, and that is muscle connection. And this is really getting to understand what the muscle is doing, not just feeling it through the movement, but understanding that it is the muscle creating that movement in the first place. It's that kind of next level down of not just saying doing a bicep curl until you can feel your bicep, but it's the idea of understanding that your bicep is the lever pulling the joint into that position. One of my favorite ones to do this on, and I've just again recently I've been doing this, is when I've been in a skull crusher position. I've been feeling my triceps pulling down my arm towards my shoulder to extend my elbow, and just really focusing on right, that muscle is doing it. So how much can I connect to that muscle being the lever, pulling through that joint and making my body do what I want it to do. You do not need to go heavy with this. So you can, when you're going heavy, we've said this before, but when you're going heavy, the idea is to move a weight as efficiently as possible. When you are trying to get muscle connection, you want to make a lightweight feel as heavy as possible. So it's very easy to go too heavy on this, but you're missing the point. So you want to find that sweet spot where you're getting a stimulus for the amount of reps you're doing and making that muscle burn as quickly as possible.
Yeah, with muscle connection as well, how it helps with getting stronger is that there's certain muscle groups that you may be struggling to switch on or feel to help you lock in a lift. A common one for people in actually all three squat, bench, and deads is their upper back, so their lats and their rhomboids and all of their upper back muscles, and they struggle to lock them into maybe with the squat to get your back tight underneath the bar, with the deadlift to get your lats locked in so you can have a straight back, for the bench to have your back locked in against the bench. And a lot of people struggle with like feeling those muscles and getting them in the right position. So these muscle connection, like focusing on that, it really helps when it comes to those bigger lifts.
Yeah, the potential for the body to recruit muscles, for the brain to recruit the muscles for any particular thing, have a massive impact on how strong you're going to be. So the more connected you are to a muscle, the better your brain can recruit them when needed, which is just going to have the knock-on effect of you being stronger. There's no two ways about it. It's one of the reasons why you see what we call newbie gains, where someone new in the gym has no idea what their muscles are doing. And as they start to understand, again, the bicep curl's the more easy one, they will see big strength gains week upon week. It's not necessarily because their muscles are getting stronger. They are, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is because the brain understands how to recruit them for what is being asked of them. And that is where the majority of that strength comes from. It's more of a neural effect than it is an actual muscle adaptation effect.
Yeah, I mean these are great steps, Jack. I really like them.
So let's just go over them again really quickly. The 5 steps to get stronger without adding weight to the bar. Number 1 is tempo, and that is the speed that you control the weight at. Number 2 is start at the bottom, like a pin press or a pin squat. Number 3 is unilateral training, where you train one side at a time. Number 4 is use bands or chains, and you can use the bands either by themselves or connect them or chains to a weight. And number 5 is muscle connection, where you actually fundamentally understand how to connect to the muscle that is working the body in the way you want it to work.
Amazing. These are great. So everybody, if you are struggling to up the weight, or you find that maybe you are upping the weight but your technique's getting worse and worse, whatever it is, use these steps to improve your strength, because they will help improve your strength. It's like we said, I think it was in the tip of the last episode, the variables, there's so many different variables in which you can change. There's so many different ways in which you can challenge and exercise and challenge the body. And these are all awesome ones in terms of improving your strength.
Yeah. Just a few honorable mentions off the back of that, like in terms of variables: shortening your rest time, lengthening the rest time, adding more reps, adding more sets, adding more volume, adding more intensity. All of these things will get you stronger. But yeah, these 5 in particular, they are going to rely on you just doing a different stimulus. So yeah, guys, that is 5 steps to get stronger without adding weight to the bar. And now, Josh, what do you have to put a smile on this man's face today?
So, I like my gardening, Jack. I'm a bit of a gardener. But I had a specific task the other day, and so I was digging. I was digging in the garden, digging a big hole, quite a big hole, and I found a chest full of gold coins, which, fuck me, I thought that's amazing. I thought, I found treasure in my garden. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go run straight home. I'm going to go straight indoors and tell my wife. I thought, this is the first thing I'm going to do. I'm run straight indoors and tell my wife. But then I remembered why I was digging in the garden.
Wow. That went dark very quickly. That went not in the direction I was expecting it to. Jesus Christ.
This is
I thought, right, this is either going to have something to do with leprechauns or a rainbow is what's going to be. But no. Gold at the end of a rainbow and leprechauns bury it there. But no, that went nowhere near where I thought that was going to go.
So that's courtesy of my friend Jody. So there you go. Thanks for that one, Jody.
Amazing. Yeah, that's good. Josh, where can they find us? Not your wife, evidently, but where can they find us?
Yeah, they can't find her. So they can find us at the RDA System on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. They can find a Facebook group at the Lifting Lounge, and they can also find our website at www.theliftinglounge.com. And we're on YouTube. YouTube people, we are on YouTube at the Lifting Lounge, and soon to have more cool content on there, which I'm really excited to get going. We've got some interesting things we're going to film with somebody we know, so I'm excited about that.
I'm very excited about that. It is it's cool as fuck. Guys, wherever you endure our content, can you leave us a review, comments? The more interaction we get from you guys, the more people we're going to reach. Leave us 5-star ratings. Yeah, leave us reviews, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that sweet stuff, and you'll make us very happy, guys. Again, as Josh said, you can find our Facebook group at the Lifting Lounge. So if you do want us to cover a specific subject, just ask us in there. That's the best place where it's much easier for us to see what people are saying to us. But until next time, we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.